Hey there, my chubby little friends, and welcome to a very special Top 5 Friday. I'm your host, Tim Cant, and this time it's special because we are looking at stock Ableton plugins. That's right, guys, all Ableton all the time. If you're not into live, don't worry about it though, because we've got something very special for you too. That's right, Juggalo news coming up later. So without further ado, let's get it cracking. Saturator makes a big wet mess at 5. Glue compressor sticks around at 4. Vocoder does the robot at 3. We catch the drum bus at 2. And Multiband Dynamics is a crossover hit at the top spot. At 5, Saturator. Saturator simulates the overloading of an electronic audio system by imposing a choice of transfer curves on your signal. Analogue clip, medium curve, sinoid fold, that sort of thing. The upshot? Distortion, compression and clipping of your signal that you can tailor with the dry, wet, drive and output controls. You can shape the response of the saturator, i.e. how strongly different frequency ranges are weighted through the effect, by activating the color switch and using the bass, Freq, width and depth parameters to taste. Who doesn't love triangles? Derry Lee, the pyramids, and now these little triangle buttons on a certain Ableton Live effects that you can click to open up a whole new world, Aladdin. Let's see what happens. Ooh, we've got some more controls here that are grayed out. Why is that? Why can't we use them? Well, we have to put the saturation mode into Waveshaper mode, and there we go. And we won't do anything too much until we turn up the drive, but we're getting a bit of wave shaping. Let's make it a little bit more crazy. Oh, that's a bit much. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. So yeah, to cut a long story short, if you want to do some interesting distortion, especially on kick drums, or making things sound wet and dirty, as I know a lot of you do, then yeah, check out the special wave shaping mode in Saturator. At 4, Glue Compressor. Designed for bus and master processing in particular, Glue is based on a classic hardware desk compressor with all analog style goodness that entails. You get a continuous threshold setting and a choice of just 3 ratios: 2:1, 4:1 and 10:1. The attack and release controls are also non-continuous, forcing you to choose the exact value. With a range control to keep compression from getting too heavy when the signal crosses further over the threshold, and a dry-wet mix for parallel compression, Glue Compressor has all you need for the basics, and is a tried and tested staple of producers everywhere. Clearly, Glue Compressor is nothing to be sniffed at, and once again, we're going to check out my magic triangle, kiddies. Let's see what it does. Oh my goodness, that's right, you get the same sidechain and EQ settings you would get in the regular compressor, meaning that it is very much possible to use Glue Compressor as your sidechain plugin. Very nice. I'm not going to do that though, I'm going to do something a little cheeky. I am going to use the EQ function instead. So we're going to use a specific frequency range of this signal as a kind of sidechain input. I'm going to make it very easy to understand, so let's see what happens. So first we're going to activate the EQ mode, and then we're going to click this little preview button here so you can hear what our EQ'd input signal sounds like. So currently it's high passed, I don't want that, I want low passed. I'm going to take that frequency right down, turn up the Q. So we're really emphasizing the kick. Now remember, we aren't going to be listening to this tool, this is just going to be our trigger. So it doesn't matter if it sounds freaky, okay? Okay, there we go. We've soloed that low kick drum frequency. So I'm going to turn the preview off. Now, it's not going to make any difference until we turn the threshold down, and then you'll see this gain reduction is only occurring when the kick plays. And you can do that with any frequency you want. Oh yeah, that is quite strong. There you have it, gang. Internal sidechain routing. Freaky deaky as you like. At 3, Vocoder. Capable of creating that classic robotic voice effect employed by disco-loving producers everywhere, plus so much more, Vocoder is much easier to use than its analog inspirations. Simply place it on the signal that you want to be your modulator, and you get a choice of carrier signals in the drop-down menu. Choose from a plugin's own noise signal, an externally routed sidechain signal, the modulator itself, and a pitch tracking oscillator that you can set the properties of. With new school features like the ability to specify the number of bands used and bandwidth controls, Vocoder is still very much ideal for creating all kinds of space-age effects. Okay, so let's have a quick look how to make your robo voice with Vocoder. Vocoder makes it very easy to create this classic effect. Let's see how it's done. So I have put Vocoder on a little vocal track. By default, it is set to the noise carrier. Pretty disturbing, I'm sure you'll agree. So we need a bit of a synth in there. What have I got? I've got some Serum, of course, just playing some chords. So we don't actually want to hear that dry signal in our mix, so we're going to set that to sends only. And in the Vocoder, we're going to select an external carrier, and we're going to select Serum as our inputs. And it's as simple as that. Now when we play it back, we'll get a robo voice. And there are plenty of ways that we can change that and make it more intelligible. What I like to do is turn up the number of bands to 40. That's nice. Also, we can turn up the unvoiced setting, which where the carrier input isn't providing enough goods to kind of activate all the bands, it'll put a little bit of a noise in there for us. So let's hear what that does. Ooh. Just makes things a little bit clearer. And there are plenty of ways to mess about with the sound that you couldn't do with a real kind of old school hardware vocoder, and particularly the formant and bandwidth controls. Let's have a play with those. And then you can get really weird with it with the attack and release. So yeah, crazy voice effects all day and all night with Vocoder. At 2, drum bus. Added in live version 10, this processor specializes in one thing. You guessed it, processing groups of drums. There are 3 modes, soft, medium and hard, which dictate how much you want to smash, plus a pre-compressor to get things started. Drum bus has descriptive parameters that don't necessarily give you much technical information about what's going on, but crunch adds distortion to the high mids and damp reduces high frequencies. Boom and Freq actually control a resonant high-pass filter, built to enhance the signal in a voice of God style way, with the ability to force its frequency cutoff to a specific note. Okay, let's take a look at Drum Bus's low-end enhancement functionality, which is extremely powerful and useful. So we've got the default settings here. Let's take a listen to a loop that we've got. All pretty standard. Let's turn up the boom and see what that do. Now you can instantly hear that is akin to just whacking a gigantic 808 sub under the beat. Very useful if you want to beef things up, and you can control how long and loose that sub is with the decay control. So you can go for kind of like a short knocking kick or a really long, powerful 808 sub. Also, you can choose the frequency. So let's have a fiddle with that. So there we go, it looks like G sharp is what the key you really want to work with. And if you want to examine it more closely, what you can do is click the little solo button and just hear the boom on its own. So there you go, extremely easy to enhance your existing sounds. And hey, you could even use it to make your own subs from scratch. And at number 1, it's Multiband Dynamics. This processor might have been designed primarily as a mastering effect, but it's capable of some pretty cool creative effects as well. It might be tricky to decipher, but Multiband Dynamics is worth spending a little bit of time on, capable as it is of upward and downward compression and expansion of up to 3 independent frequency bands, with adjustable crossover points and envelope controls for each band. The crux of the plugin is the TBA selector area. T adjusts the attack and release timing, and A and B control what happens when the signal go above and below the threshold respectively, allowing for all kinds of useful compression and expansion processing. Let's not beat around the bush, guys. Multiband Dynamics is an uninviting effect that is scary. However, it has a lot of very powerful functionality, so it's worth facing your demons and having a look at it. Now, my first tip is, because I can never remember what these things do, I'm going to open the info panel, which is hopefully going to help me out as much as it'll help you. One thing in particular I like this effect for is tightening up just the low end of a signal specifically. These days I often use neutron transient shaper for that, but this is very good at it as well. So I'll show you how I do that. So we've got a bit of a hip hoppy loop here. Pay attention in particular to the boominess of the kick drum. Okay, that's a bit of a boomy kick. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solo the low band so we can just focus in on that part. Okay, already making things a little bit simpler for ourselves. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click this B tab, which controls the below threshold and ratios. So what this controls is what Multiband Dynamics does with the signal when it is below the threshold that we've set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the thing back. I'm going to turn up the threshold a bit. Now, where things get complicated is with the ratio control. This is where the info panel comes in handy. Ratios below 1 result in downward expansion, lower volume, while ratios above 1 result in upward compression, higher volume. A ratio of 1 results in no compression or expansion. Okay, so what this is telling us is a ratio below 1 will result in your downward expansion, i.e. lower volume. That is a bit like putting a gate on it. So, and that is analogous to like the neutron transient shaping turning the sustain down. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this ratio down as we play back the loop, and you should be able to hear what it does. There you go, it's tightening things up a bit. And if we return it to its default value, you'll hear how much looser it is. And if we want maximum looseness, we can turn this up and compress it. Listen to that. So let's return it to its tightest value. And we're going to unsolo this, and now we'll have a listen to the unprocessed signal versus the version with the tightened up low end. There you go. Depending on what you're listening back to this on, that might sound amazing, or it might sound very, very slightly different. But anyway, hopefully there is just a little introduction to Multiband Dynamics for you, well worth taking the time to investigate. Well, my skinny little pals, I'm afraid that is a wrap. And that's right, it means we don't have time for Juggalo news. But hey, maybe we'll do it in the next episode. There's only one way to find out. That's to join us next time. And hey, make sure you don't miss it by clicking various buttons on your computer or phone. Bye-bye.